This podcast contains content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Topics discussed are for fun only. Do your own research before embarking on any activity discussed here. May include strong language, sensitive subjects, or material that some listeners may find distressing. If you find any content upsetting, feel free to skip or stop listening at any time. Thank you for your support.
Ending world hunger. I mean, it's one of those challenges that just feels enormous, almost impossible.
Truly a global scale issue.
Exactly. But that's what we're tackling today. We've got this really interesting document here, A Leader's Plan to End World Hunger. And it lays out a pretty ambitious vision for, confronting this whole thing head on.
It certainly does.
So our goal in this deep dive, we want to pull out the key strategies, the evidence behind them, and really try to understand the complexities and, well, the potential solutions.
Getting to grips with what this plan actually proposes.
Yeah. And for you listening, if you want to get a quick but solid grasp on what this is all about, let's jump in.
Okay. So what really jumps out from this plan, I think, isn't just that it's ambitious, but how it focuses on the fundamental drivers of hunger.
The root causes.
Exactly. It acknowledges it's this complex web of factors.
Yeah.
And the very first one it hits on, which is, well, undeniable, is conflict.
Absolutely. It seems obvious, but the scale of it in conflict zones is just awful. The plan points to a World Food Program statistic.
Yeah.
A staggering 65%. 65 of the 343 million people facing acute hunger. They're in countries affected by conflict.
Wow, 65%, that's huge.
It really is. So what does the plan suggest? How do we tackle something so deeply ingrained?
Well, the plan really prioritizes diplomatic solutions first. That's key.
Diplomacy.
Yeah, investing in conflict mediation, strengthening international peacekeeping efforts. Those are presented as core strategies.
Okay.
And if you think about it, stability is just foundational. You can't grow crops or distribute aid effectively if there's active fighting.
Right, impossible.
And even after a conflict officially ends, the disruption to local food systems can mean hunger sticks around for a long time. So the plan's focus on long-term stability is really crucial.
That makes a lot of sense. So starting with conflict, where does the plan go next? Another huge one is poverty.
Definitely. It's the harsh reality that even if food is available, billions just can't afford a healthy diet.
And the plan cites World Bank data.
It does. Really sobering numbers. 2.8 billion people couldn't afford a healthy diet back in 2022.
It's 2.8 billion.
Yeah. Mostly because of rising food prices and, income inequality.
So what's the approach there? How do you break that poverty cycle?
What's interesting is the strategy is quite multifaceted. It's not just about immediate aid, although things like social safety nets, cash transfers, food assistance, they definitely play a role.
Sure, the immediate help.
But the bigger emphasis is on sustainable economic development. Things like fair trade practices, generating decent jobs in vulnerable areas.
So longer-term solutions?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also investing in education and skills training, empowering people for the long haul.
Right, equipping people. Okay. Now, you can't talk about global challenges today without talking climate change. Does the plan tackle that?
Oh, absolutely. It has to. The UN points to climate change as a key driver of hunger, and the plan picks up on that.
Makes sense. So what's the thinking there?
Well, it strongly advocates for ambitious global climate agreements. And crucially, agreements that are actually enforced.
Right. Enforcement is key.
And also, the transition to renewable energy is seen as essential. Plus, a big focus on investing in what they call climate-smart agriculture.
Climate-smart agriculture, what does that involve?
It's about farming practices that make food production more resilient to climate shocks. Things like droughts, floods,
Ah, okay. Building resilience.
Yeah. But it raises a big question, doesn't it? How do we make sure these agreements actually happen and that vulnerable countries get the resources they need to adapt?
Yeah, that's a huge implementation challenge. Okay, so we've had conflict, poverty, climate change. The plan also digs into inequality, right?
It does. It references action against hunger's view, which really emphasizes how power dynamics and just basic inequity are root causes.
So it's not just about scarcity.
Not at all. It's fundamentally about who has access and who has control.
Interesting. So what are the proposed solutions for tackling that inequality?
Several key things. Promoting gender equality is highlighted as paramount, recognizing the huge role women play in food production and family nutrition.
Absolutely vital.
And strengthening land rights for smallholder farmers, giving them more security, more reason to invest in their land.
Okay.
And just broadly pushing for more equitable distribution of resources. What's insightful is recognizing that just growing more food overall isn't enough if the systems for access are still fundamentally unfair.
Right, you need both production and fair access. Okay, let's maybe unpack that a bit and shift to the second major pillar in the plan, building sustainable food systems.
Yeah, this is about how we produce food now and, the future without wrecking the planet.
Right, and it starts with investing in sustainable agriculture. What kind of practices are we actually talking about?
So the plan mentions several key ones. Things like crop rotation helps the soil naturally, reduces pests, conservation tillage, which is about disturbing the soil less, reducing erosion, agroforestry, mixing trees with crops or livestock.
Ah, interesting. Multiple benefits there.
Yeah, shade, better soil, capturing carbon, and also integrated pest management, trying to use fewer chemical pesticides.
Right, so more natural approaches.
Pretty much. And groups like the Union of Concerned Scientists really back these methods for building long-term resilience. But crucially, it also means supporting small farmers with the knowledge, the tech, and the financing to actually use these practices.
Yeah, empowering the people actually growing the food. Makes sense. Okay, another huge piece of this sustainable systems puzzle seems to be food waste. That statistic is just mind-blowing.
The World Food Program won. Yeah, a third of all food produced never gets eaten.
1/3. It's shocking. How does the plan suggest we tackle that inefficiency?
It calls for a pretty comprehensive approach, reducing waste all along the supply chain from the farm, through transport, storage, retail, right down to us in our homes.
Everywhere, basically.
Yeah. Better infrastructure helps, clearer food labeling, maybe public campaigns to make people more aware.
And what about food that is still good but might otherwise be wasted?
Big emphasis on food recovery and redistribution. Getting that perfectly edible surplus food to people who actually need it.
Just seems like common sense, doesn't it? Don't let good food go to waste. Okay, the last bit under sustainable systems is about promoting nutritious diets, fighting hidden hunger.
Right. Because it's not just about having enough calories. We talked about that World Bank stat, 2.8 billion people can't afford a healthy diet. That leads to micronutrient deficiencies.
Hidden hunger, right. So how do we fix that?
The plan suggests encouraging both the production and consumption of diverse, nutrient-rich foods.
How?
Supporting farmers to grow more varied, nutritious crops, maybe public education on healthy eating. Also, food fortification is mentioned.
Fortification, like adding vitamins to staples.
Exactly. Adding essential vitamins and minerals to common foods like flour or salt. It's seen as a key tool to tackle those widespread deficiencies.
Okay, so we've covered root causes and sustainable production. Let's move to the third part. Efficient and equitable distribution. Because even if we grow enough food sustainably,
we still need to get it to the people who need it, yeah.
And the plan stresses strengthening food supply chains. What does that mean, practically?
A lot of it comes down to infrastructure. Investing in better roads, transport, storage facilities, especially in developing nations.
Right, the physical movement of food.
Exactly. Poor infrastructure is a known cause of hunger. Food spoils. It's hard to move it from where it's plentiful to where it's scarce. It needs serious investment and cooperation.
Absolutely. And during crises, like those conflicts we mentioned earlier, just getting aid in becomes a massive challenge. The plan talks about improving humanitarian access.
Critically important. As we said, conflict often directly blocks aid.
Making things even worse.
Tragically, yes. So the plan pushes for stronger international cooperation, diplomatic pressure to ensure aid organizations have safe, unimpeded access.
It's about basic humanitarian principles.
Fundamentally, yes. Getting essential aid to those most in need, no matter how tough the situation on the ground.
It feels like a moral obligation. Okay, final point under distribution, technology and data. Seems like we should be using tech more effectively here.
The potential is huge. The plan highlights data analytics, remote sensing, digital platforms.
How can they help?
Well, much better early warning systems for food shortages. Optimizing aid delivery, making it faster, more targeted, even connecting farmers directly to markets, cutting out middlemen, maybe boosting their income.
Using data smartly.
The World Bank really emphasizes how powerful data can be in this space. It's about making our efforts smarter.
Right. Okay, that leads us nicely into the fourth and final pillar, global collaboration and governance. It seems obvious this isn't something one country can solve alone.
Absolutely not. The plan really stresses the need for strengthened international cooperation.
What does that look like?
It means working closely with international partners, ensuring wealthier nations actually follow through on their aid and development commitments.
Holding them accountable.
Yes, and supporting the UN agencies and the NGOs doing the work on the ground. It's about a united global front.
And it's not just cooperation, but policy coherence. What's that?
It means making sure policies in different areas like trade, agriculture, environment, health all work together towards food security, not against each other.
Ah, so they don't cancel each other out.
Exactly. Like, trade policies shouldn't hurt local farmers in poor countries. Environmental policies should support sustainable farming. It needs a joined-up approach at the policy level.
Makes sense. Lastly, accountability and transparency. How do we make sure progress actually happens and promises are kept?
By setting up clear ways to monitor progress, tracking commitments from governments, organizations, everyone involved, and being transparent about it all.
So we can see what's working.
Precisely. See what's working, see where more effort is needed, and build public trust in this whole global effort.
So wrapping up this deep dive into a leader's plan to end world hunger, it's really striking how interconnected everything is.
Totally. You can't just focus on one piece.
No, you need to tackle the root causes conflict, inequality, while building sustainable food systems, ensuring fair distribution, and having that global cooperation. It's all linked.
It is. And while the scale of hunger feels overwhelming, this plan argues that if we have a coordinated, evidence-based strategy hitting all these points,
it might actually be achievable.
It suggests it's a pathway. Ambitious, yes, but potentially achievable.
Okay, so a final thought then for you listening. Thinking about all these different angles, conflict resolution, sustainable farming, tech, global policy, which area do you think holds the most potential to really move the needle on ending world hunger? And what role can different players, governments, individuals like us, organizations play in actually making it happen? Something to chew on after this deep dive.